You guys are like crackheads. Except instead of needing the sweet relief of white powder, you need Assassin's Creed Unity content. Well, don't you worry. Your dealer is here, and I've got the supply. Unity is kind of like that girl at school that started off ugly, but then as she started to mature and go through puberty, you realised, wow, she's actually quite beautiful. Obviously, I found her beautiful before she went through puberty, but my therapist told me not to say things like that out loud, so we're just going to move on. In the last video, we managed to assassinate Voiy in probably the most disappointing way that you could ever do it. But hey, it's my channel, it's my content, what else can you expect apart from disappointing? Did you guys know that in the late 1700s, looting a dead corpse was actually a crime? I mean, in the modern day era, it's an understandable law, but back in the 1700s, you could unconsensually put your penis in someone and be fine. So it seems weird that they draw the line at dead body looting. Off to see my fellow assassin friends, and I always notice that there's this one guy that stands outside the gate, and he always reminds me of those people that hang around bus stops waiting for the opportune time to approach you and ask if you can bun a cigarette because he's just lost his job and can't afford any. I feel like it's a mandatory thing for every town in England to have at least 5 of those people. American towns have those few people who just casually walk around with a Desert Eagle in their trousers, whereas English towns just have those couple of deadbeats who are always like, "Here mate, can I have tools on that cig?" So it turns out that all that time we had planning against Voiy in prison and then finally assassinating him was actually pretty useless. Because Voiy wasn't actually the one that struck the killing blow on Monsieur de la Serre. The person who did was someone known as the King of Beggars. My assassin brothers are then like, "It's okay mate, don't worry, you have permission to go and assassinate this other geezer." And I'm really starting to realise now that being an assassin is a busy lifestyle. It really is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week kind of job. Since Arno's become an assassin, he hasn't even managed to see Elise yet, and he's got a 20-pack of ripped Johnnies just waiting in his pocket to be filled. And it's not even like 1700s Instagram was a thing. He can't just have a nice fap to a picture of her showing a little bit too much Achilles heel. To help Arno with the assassination and to cheer him up about his lack of snatch, he was gifted a phantom blade by his fellow assassins. It's basically just a crossbow attached to your wrist. Now obviously I had to test this before walking into a group of enemies. I didn't want to make myself look like a fool just going in there and not knowing how to use the thing. And what better person to test it on than just a random guy in the street sitting on a bench? It's the 1700s at the end of the day. Average life expectancy was around 30 years old, so am I really doing anything wrong by murdering an innocent civilian? And well, as you can see, it's an excellent device, killing them in one shot, and it also seems to have some sort of hiding the body technology built into it. Now the King of Beggars is called the King of Beggars because... oh, I'm sure you don't need that explained to you. You can figure out why the King of Beggars is called the King of Beggars. That's like me explaining why fingering is called fingering. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just the way that your fingers are used to play a certain note on an instrument. So the King of Beggars isn't really a massive fan of going outside and socializing a lot, something which I can really relate to. But he does have these kind of small beggar camps, which absolutely reeks of poverty, and there is where some of his higher-ups tend to be. So Arno's job right now was find one of the higher-ups and see if we could pick up a trail leading all the way back to the King of Beggars. While searching through the beggars camp, I noticed this guy was coming on a little bit too strongly with this woman and she didn't seem too keen on him. So I decided to do the noble thing here and help her out by shooting her with my phantom bow. Now she's dead and she no longer has to worry or be scared about anything this man might have done to her. I do indeed find one of the King of Beggars higher-ups, and obviously he's just there chopping off someone's leg. Because if someone's missing a limb, you do end up feeling sorry for them more than you would a normal person. I mean, look at Oscar Pistorius. People still think that he didn't shoot his wife, but I guarantee you if he had both of his legs, it would be a 100% no doubt in anyone's mind that he did it. Just as Arno's about to confront the higher-up, who we'll call Big Hat Boy, he is then actually confronted himself by a guy whose name is way too long for me to remember, so we'll just call him Hairy Chest Boy. Hairy Chest Boy actually gives Arno some pretty sound advice, that he shouldn't go after Big Hat Boy right now and should instead just tail him for a little bit, because this is an Assassin's Creed game and you have to tail someone on every other mission. Wait until he's on his own and then get answers from him about where the Beggar King is hiding. Play the long game and the rewards you reap will be a lot greater. Someone once gave me that advice about sex before, but neither me or the local Russian woman in my area was having a great time when we was 10 minutes in and I just had some accordion action going. While trailing Big Hat Boy, I then got myself into a bit of a pickle and realised that no matter how good it is for those times when you have pasta, fighting people with what's basically a 5-foot fork is really not the way to go when you have a load of angry French people after you. Does it look badass? Absolutely. Is it about as useless as Sniper Wolf's content? Absolutely. I literally only made that joke because someone got really angry at me in my last Unity video for making the joke about Sniper Wolf's content. No! No, please! Oh, here we go. I was horny as well, so this is perfect.
Give me le roi des thunes, and I'll spare you your life.
The catacombs! He's in the catacombs beneath the old church!
Big Hat Boy gave up the location of the King of Beggars faster than I gave up on having loving parents, and now all we had to do was just make our way down to the catacombs and take him out. Before we ventured down into the catacombs, however, it was time to say bye-bye to my 5-foot fork and hello to a new weapon. But replacing a weapon is never simple. It's like a general rule I have for girlfriends. The next one has always got to be an improvement on the last. Like just recently, I've upgraded from my RuneScape girlfriend into a World of Warcraft girlfriend. And let me tell you, the differences are unbelievable. So I needed something quite unique, quite brash, and quite badass. And that's why I went with the Warhammer. It's threatening by its looks, it's unique and not something you see an assassin carry often, and it's also useful for kneecapping people who say they like the taste of coriander. And finally, it was time for Arno to get his hands on Monsieur de la Serre's killer. You know something's going to go down in an Assassin's Creed game when they start looking like one of those people who run a deep Tumblr blog back in 2011. I am slightly concerned for Arno, however, because he's been doing all this assassinating stuff and hasn't got a single meal down him yet. I mean, can you really be killing this many people on an empty stomach? Now, I do really enjoy this game, but it's definitely still got its small Assassin's Creed Unity issues. But hey, an Assassin's Creed game with fluid parkour that works 100% of the time? Yeah, right, Chief. I think there's more of a chance of me having sex and not crying afterwards. Getting into combat, and it was my first chance to test out the Warhammer. And to quote my childhood neighbour, it's long, it's chunky, but you never know what it can do until you get down to business. I guess I'll let you guys know what I think of the Warhammer by once again quoting my neighbour. It is really impressive, especially when you consider how long he's had it in his hands for. When saving a group of beggars, no, not because I felt sorry for them, it's just they were helping me fight the guards, I witnessed a headbutt, the likes of which a French person hasn't given out since the 2006 World Cup final. Christ! They've got to be an ancestor of Zidane. Just before I entered the catacombs, I saw something shining on the side of one of the buildings, so I approached it out of curiosity and then realised that it said Virgo, which is a star sign, and I thought, well, I don't own a Fiat 500, and I'm not a middle-aged mum who loves Facebook, so I don't think this applies to me. Making my way through the catacombs really made me realise that these guys aren't messing around and they really do not care. There's just bodies of law enforcement everywhere, and when you look at them, blood stains on the whites. If that's not the sign of someone that's ruthless, I don't know what is. Do you know how hard blood is to get out of white clothing? I mean, I don't, because I have a girlfriend, so hang on. Mia? Arno may be a ruthless assassin, but leaving someone to just bleed out on the floor is way, way below his moral code. So if I do see them bleeding out on the floor, I make sure to give them a much more dignified end by stabbing them straight in the penis.
I've heard reliable reports that an assassin is nearby and that you are his intended target.
We let Big Hat Boy off scot-free because he told us the location of the King of Beggars, and now we see that he is a snake. This just brings back a lot of emotional trauma for me as well, because I was once snaked by one of my closest friends when I was younger. He had no arms, but I still really liked the guy, and I decided to pick him for my football team as I was captain. Put him in goal, and we ended up conceding 20 goals. Cannot believe it, he was clearly working with the other team's captain, but he'd never admit to it and always blame it on his lack of arms. On my final few steps to assassinate the King of Beggars, I found Big Hat Boy, but obviously, like the snake he is, he slithered away. Clearly the King of Beggars has never played an Assassin's Creed game before, because he tries to defend himself while standing on high ground, and high ground is basically an assassin's natural habitat. That's like not wanting your child to get molested, but then encouraging them to go and accept sweets off of a stranger.
Diable.
And there it was, Monsieur de la Serre had finally been avenged. His killers had been taken out, and Arno could finally have some sort of peace and move on to maybe trying to find his father's murderer. That is obviously until we learn that there was someone else involved with the murder, because why wouldn't there be? Just rendering everything we've done so far pointless and complicating things a whole lot more. To find out where this complicated trail is going though, you'll all have to show your support on this video and prove to me that you really want another Assassin's Creed Unity video. I appreciate your guys' support on the channel recently, and especially on the Unity videos. It has been incredible. I'm loving doing YouTube right now, and I just can't wait to make more content for you. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're around here. Thank you all for watching, I really do genuinely appreciate you. and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.